Hello, welcome back to my channel and to another reaction video. This time we'll be continuing the Antares Confederacy. This is part 4.
On February 27th, 396 AL, an announcement was made by the Prime Minister of the Confederate Republics of Antares. The time and date of the national address had itself been announced days earlier, and when Jiro Hashimoto, the man who had led the Confederacy to victory over the Great Khan, appeared alongside the heads of state from each republic, every office was empty, every school closed. The moment was unlike anything in the history of Antares, eclipsing even Reunification Day or the first successful flight of the Earhart beyond the boundaries of the miasma. The history of the Antares Confederacy, the Prime Minister acknowledged, had been built on a lie. A lie intended to protect rather than deceive, yet nevertheless devastating in its consequences. For all its history, the leaders of the Earhart flotilla and the republics that had followed had claimed that no messages from Earth had ever been received. They had said the fate of their home world was unknown. The truth was, when the Earhart flotilla first emerged in the star system that would come to be known as Antares, at least 100 messages had been received. They were garbled and fragmented, but when pieced together, told a story of anticipation, followed by carnage and tragedy. At the time of the Earhart flotilla's departure, the nations of Earth had detected seemingly artificial broadcasts of repeating mathematical patterns. While unequivocal proof of alien life had not yet been found, it was no longer easily dismissed as purely science fiction.
Was Earth
The
conquered or
records of when the
something like
Skrek
that?
first arrived in the solar system were lost in the war that followed. The exact course the conflict took was similarly consumed. Only the craters where once stood ancient cities of mankind, carefully recorded by hidden Confederate drones, hint at the full extent of the cataclysm. The Skrek were an ancient civilization, possessing knowledge and technology far beyond the realm of human understanding. But their vast empire had been consumed, and what remained became obsessed with the study of lost glories. Why they chose to conquer humanity, to travel well beyond their borders to a distant part of the galaxy and ignore every other species on the way, could not be explained. But choose the human race they did. The
Yeah,
United
we're so
Terran
lucky.
Protectorates emerged from the end of the Earth as a captive state, bound to serve the will of the Skrek and help them reassert their power across the universe. As history was rewritten and forgotten, what remained of mankind became willing collaborators, expanding into space and reaping the benefits of their servitude. When the first representatives of the Antares Confederacy encountered the United Terran Protectorates within the halls of the galactic community, they were not treated as long-lost brothers and sisters, but with open contempt. Only in the decades that followed was it discovered that this had been, at least in part, a ruse. The few Terran diplomats and support staff that passed messages to the Antares Confederacy always disappeared soon after, but the information they relayed was horrifying. Not every detail was revealed to Antares during this first address, but the base facts were clear. Earth was a prison in which millions toiled as slaves and playthings for their overlords. Whatever power the UTP might have achieved was directed towards the Skrek's adversaries, with Terran fleets and Terran armies used as tools to enslave whole species and nations. And while
Using
the
humanity
occasional
as a
smuggled message
weapon, I
revealed the
guess.
presence of a small resistance, the idea of a full-scale rebellion was unlikely, if not impossible. Liberation, if it ever came, would likely not arise from within.
Time for the Antares to save
This was
humanity
as great a shock to the citizens
and
of
free
Antares
Earth.
as anything in their history. But the idea that the Confederacy might lead a great charge to liberate the Earth, as they had done with the Vrul or the Khan, was laughable. The strength of the United Terran Protectorates alone was far superior to the Confederacy. With the Skrek not only behind them, but now within striking distance of Antares itself, victory was impossible. It could also not be ignored that Antares was no longer a human nation. No citizen alive today had ever set foot upon the Earth, and the last generation to breathe its air had long since vanished. Whatever link there remained with Earth, for the good of Antares, had to be severed. For decades, Antares again turned inwards. The territories taken by the Khan were established as new federal republics and then released as sovereign partners. Centers of science and discovery flourished, bringing to the nation new insights into artificial intelligence, robotics, and even the means to travel through long dormant gateways constructed by a civilization long since extinct. But as communications technology improved and the galaxy grew smaller, news would increasingly reach the Antares Confederacy that the Skrek had unleashed the United Terran Protectorates against some distant nation. For all its achievements, the spirit of the nation had been wounded. The genocide enacted against the Thymodian Republic in 417 was like nothing that had come before. Their armies beaten and fleets shattered, the Skrek had deployed a weapon of colossal power against one of their helpless worlds. The entire planet was encased in a shield of impenetrable energy, its inhabitants doomed to be toyed with like ants by bored Skrek nobles.
What the hell?
This display of power was perhaps meant to awe the galaxy into submission, to show what fate awaited any who might resist. And it worked.
I think they had a
The
similar
galactic community
thing in the
issued a condemnation
GTU.
and then returned to the same tired politics.
One of the agent powers
The affected peoples
would
begged for aid and were
trap
ignored
people.
by their neighbors.
Their planets, I mean.
The nations of the galaxy turned elsewhere. But within the Confederate republics of Antares, something else occurred. There had once been a raging fire within humanity, an ancient martial spirit that had been decayed by decades and centuries of peace and isolationism. The destruction of the home world of the Vrul, the last stand of General Liliana Reyes on Malacca, these events and others had kindled that flame, yet it remained doomed to dwindle back to glowing embers. The Thymodian genocide was different, an inferno ignited. But what was perhaps most extraordinary was that this searing desire for justice was no longer unique to mankind alone, but burned within the hearts of all those who had arrived within Antares. Every species within the nation had found a place beyond the reach of tyrants, a place where they were free to live whatever kind of life they wished. But the achievements of Antares were meaningless if they came at the expense of a galaxy that cried out for help and was ignored. The fire that burned within the nation might have been described in 1,000 different ways by 1,000 different cultures, but the overriding feeling expressed itself in a simple idea: evil must be opposed. Historians have often claimed that the Confederacy's declaration of war against the perpetually unstable Althorian Empire in 422 might have arisen from this feeling of helplessness turned to bitter rage that had emerged across Antares. While Earth could not be liberated, the Althorians could. The Confederacy's victory was swift, but the war had not been fought in pursuit of new territories. It had been waged to free the slave armies forced to die in that empire's defense, to rid that nation of an emperor who, like the Skrek, saw his subjects as only chattel. Had the liberation of the Althorians echoed that of the Vrul centuries earlier, with a slow descent back into autocracy, perhaps the Antares Confederacy would have given up on its interventionism, its flame extinguished. But experience was everything, and the lessons learned with the Vrul and the Khan ensured that the institutions established by the Antares occupation forces within the former empire were not so easily dismantled. At first, the former slaves and citizens of the Althorian Empire exercised their freedom under the protection of Confederate guns, but when those guns departed, the impact of Antares remained. The liberation of the Althorians was a seminal moment in the history of the Confederacy. It was not the first time that their nation had fought to uphold their most cherished values, but it was the first time that their success had not turned to ashes in the decades that followed. Following this triumph, the power of the Skrek no longer seemed insurmountable. Senators who had once dismissed the notion of addressing their brutality now began to argue, with increasing vehemence, that Parliament denounce them, confront them. The nations invaded by the Terran Protectorates, the species enslaved, they were no longer nameless entities to the people of Antares. Humans might no longer be the majority within the nation, but they were hardly the only species to have suffered. The Confederacy was a realm of refugees and immigrants fleeing the power of tyranny, and with each new atrocity brought to light came the desire to resist. It would be many years more before the declaration was made and the Antares Confederacy embarked on its great crusade, but the path was beginning to present itself. When the nations liberated by Antares joined together to form a new federation of equals, when construction began on a fleet yard the likes of which the galaxy had never seen, none present could have truly appreciated the lasting importance of these decisions. Whether the officials at the time recognized the true meaning behind their actions, Antares was beginning to arm itself for a seemingly inevitable confrontation. There had once been a statue located in the harbor of one of Earth's great cities. At the time of its construction, it was described as the New Colossus, and a sonnet of the same name was inscribed at its base. Its message had been deemed so offensive and laughable to the Skrek that the statue had been reduced to molten slag, reforged into alien jewelry to be worn by their mocking nobility. No human alive today has ever seen the figure that once stood upon sea-washed sunset gates. A mighty woman with a torch, whose flame was imprisoned lightning, and her name Mother of Exiles. From her beacon hand once glowed a worldwide welcome, whose silent lips once cried, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free."
Statue of
Yet a galaxy
Liberty.
away from where that statue once stood, flames of imprisoned lightning burn not in a single torch, but across an entire star system, an entire nation. A nation that for centuries has provided refuge for the tired, the poor, the huddled masses. To all those yearning to breathe free, Antares is seen as a mother of exiles. The Skrek see something different. They see and fear a new Colossus.
And yeah, well, there we have it, folks. Part 4. And okay, so now we know what happened to Earth in after the flotilla left and what the secret messages were. I remember making a few predictions back in the first episode in the prologue. I think that's when they mentioned their messages, but yeah, I don't remember exactly what I guessed, but it most certainly wasn't that Earth was conquered by a powerful alien race. But they did, and yeah, that was a nasty bit that they reduced the Statue of Liberty into a jewelry just to mock humanity, and now humanity, like many other species, serve the Shrek as uh, as a meat shield, basically. The Terran Protectorate has enslaved many, destroyed many enemies of the Shrek and brought many species under their rule, and now it's time for the Antares to uh, face this new threat. But yeah, I mean, they mentioned that the humans that live in the Antares system, not only are they no longer a majority since it's become a safe haven for so many species. I haven't kept count, but as they said that no human living in the Antares can't be necessarily considered as an earthling anymore, since none of them have seen it, breathe its air or anything like that. But I'd imagine there's gonna be some weird feelings going up against fellow humans, especially since they probably know that humanity is their slave now. But yeah, and I do expect uh, I'd expect them to be able to turn humanity around and form some kind of rebellion. But I mean, they did mention that weird weapon that encases planet in a dome for dome and have the people be like ants for whatever whims the nobles decide. So, but yeah, in the GTU season one, I forgot what of those ancient powers of the universe. They had a similar weapon which would encase planet into this impenetrable force field. So yeah, the weapon kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, this was a very interesting episode indeed because, like I said, now we finally know what happened to Earth. But yeah, I mean, the music at the beginning was very sad. I mean, when they described that, okay, humanity's first encounter uh, with, I mean, Earth's encounter with an alien species didn't end so well. I mean, in season one, the GTU's, well, Earth, when the tyrants attacked, it wasn't well. But yeah, fun fact that in both season one and two, Earth was invaded by a powerful alien race, but while in season one humanity repelled the tyrants, here the Shrek conquered Earth, and yeah, I mean makes sense here, since but yeah, good. Lucky for Earth that part of humanity, the flotilla did survive and they've amassed great power, so now they have a chance to get liberated, and that would be my prediction that they will, but the I don't expect it to be an easy fight. And yeah, it'll be very interesting to see just how will the Antares view Earthlings now. As said before, Antares is now not just one species; it's a coalition of many species. So some will probably want to exterminate the humans serving the Shrek, while some might want to save. I don't know what's gonna happen, but I'm very excited to continue. Hope you enjoyed my reaction. Don't forget to like, subscribe if you want, and I will see you in another video. Bye.